Okay, so let's talk about the feed, which is apparently our world now with no end, but personally, I'm not sure that is the case. In fact, your addiction to the feed very much depends on how mainstream you are, which is truly the best illustrated, assuming that you just joined something and you come to the realization that everything that they're showing you, I'm not going to use specific examples here, is not something that you care about. In fact, if you permit me some level of arrogance here, perhaps, you would need to give yourself a fucking lobotomy to even begin to care. Now, personally, I don't think this is a strong claim on my end. Social media is not exactly known for its intellectually challenging material, yet, technically speaking, you can have everything. So you can definitely have good content. Yet it would be naive to think that the platform and how it's delivered does not affect what kind of content you end up seeing. Now, of course, in this regard, suppose you just subscribe to things and you never ever look at the feed, and let's say that you are not harassed ever. Then I guess you are free from the feed. Although, for many of us, presumably, what we have in our subscriptions is kind of something we got from the feed. And initially, as I pointed out, you are not seeing what you want to be seeing, but I guess you can train the feed to show you what you like. So I guess that would be the main selling point of it. Yet that does not seem to be the case, because you have to understand that businesses own these feeds, and their interest lies in you spending as much time as possible and watching as many ads as possible. So in a way, the feed is an ad. But worse than an ad, they want you to be the kind of person who spends a lot of time on their platform. And a lot of platforms, I would feel inherently no draw toward. So I'm not gonna use specifics here, but I just look at it like, yeah, I feel zero draw toward it. So use a non-social media example of it. Do you like the idea of like playing a one-arm bandit in a casino? Because if you are the kind of person who's drawn to it, like it is just so stupid, then presumably yes, but otherwise it just looks the most boring thing ever. So fundamentally, are you chiefly interested in the content or the gambling aspect of it, of finding the good content? You can argue that they interplay, yet quite obviously the element of finding good content and like refreshing the feed and scrolling the feed plays an important part. And this kind of reinforcement would be called variable rate schedule. So you're not getting rewarded every time, but you're getting rewarded like every 20th time, which is the best way to have people be addicted to a certain kind of behavior. Now, let me be clear that if you just wanted content, and this is what people don't even consider necessarily these days, but you can just, like, suppose you wanted a book. Would you just go on some kind of a book feed and like start refreshing that? That makes no sense. You would just search for books, right? Which you absolutely do when you actually need something relevant. So you kind of scroll the feed if you're aimless. It's like, okay, I feel bored or whatever, and just give me something. So you might argue that, yeah, we're kind of searching content, but if you really care to find instead of gamble, then possibly your approach would be different. Yet, let me suppose that you spent time with the feed and you kind of trained it to show you what you like. Now, this is already a little naive because if you start out where the feed wants you to start out, almost certainly you will never get there. Either you quit or you would have to start off at a better position. Now, let's suppose that your taste is less mainstream. And let's suppose you don't like games, or you don't like sports, you don't like politics. But the thing is, the feed will not be on your side, ever. Because the feed wants you to like these things, so you spend a lot of time on the platform. You can choose to not have a single subscription, you can choose to not watch a single video about games, but you will see game-related videos all the time. But why? Is it because you're interested in it? No, because it's in the interest of the platform to get you hooked on those kind of videos. Now, I did use video here, but again, I want to keep this more general, so I suppose I should just say content. So you're shown what presumably others like, but mainly what gets you spend a lot of time on the platform. And it's not about what you like. Like, for example, one of the longest running feeds would be YouTube, and I'm on YouTube since the very start. And I guess I trained the feed, but the feed does not care. The pro would be that you might be shown something of interest. But generally, that is not the case. Albeit this really goes much, much farther than this. Because they are not only showing you what others are presumably addicted to, but what they are paid to show you. So the feed is an ad. So the content itself has ad on it, but the feed is also an ad. They're kind of mixing in, at least, things that they want you to see. And why they want you to see that? Well, the simple answer is self-interest. Their self-interest. And it's also worth pointing out that this kind of content might seem to be in an arbitrary direction, but it is rarely so. It tends to be highly influenced by, I guess, interest, power, but most of all, just money. Platforms won't really care to show you things, even if others care, that don't really get any advertisers, that have nothing to sell. Now sure, you might spend some time, and that's good, but suppose they could show you something that sells and makes you spend time, then they will prefer that. So if your interest is not profitable, then it goes against the interest of the platform. Now, let's just go into more specifics here. And even my feed, on let's just say one platform, I mostly follow tech and some philosophy. Yet what I get to see basically all the time, just recommendations for right-wing stuff, some rage about politics, completely breaking news about politics, conversations that are all about winning. How, well, first of all, just a crap ton of video games, but also complaints about that the video games are woke. And a lot of that I would just classify as just dumb bullshit. I can't even comprehend why would anyone care. And seemingly the main goal is just to get you to pay and waste as much time as possible. And what are they going to promote? Are they going to promote some free stuff, perhaps? No. You're going to see everyone raging about the new Hollywood movie. How are they have to watch it because apparently that's the only thing that anyone should care about, or that it just sucks. And they're going to share their opinion how much it sucks. And that is fine. But not caring is not fine. Politics truly would be my main critique, because in the past, it was not really so. Or at least kind of the world somewhat made fun of America for always raging about politics. But now the entire internet is raging about politics. And mostly it's related to America. And it's dumb too. People are like, oh yeah, that's my political party, or, you know, that's my politician guy. And because I believe in that, I guess I'm a smart person. Anyone who doesn't believe in what I believe in is just stupid. And you can see the debates and the podcasts recommended. And you can just have two ignorant tools who take turns sharing their opinion, ignorant opinion, and either validating each other or shouting past each other. Like, Of course, you see the gender wars. It's like one side is gonna be like, I hate men. Other side is gonna be like, I hate women. And of course, to possibly top it all off, you see all the drama about people you don't even care about and possibly never even heard about if you're lucky. So I would ask, who the fuck cares about any of that? But most of all, this is just not what you sign up for. But this is what you get served. Yet I would argue that they are kind of making a mistake. A mistake in the sense that they're certainly making a play to indoctrinate people to be in a certain way, to be ideally the perfect consumer on their platform. But assuming you don't want to be this person, then you might be somewhat chased away. Because you open the feed and it's not gonna be reinforcing, it's gonna be repelling. It's not gonna be find the diamond sometimes, it's gonna be eat shit every time. Even if you spent over a decade just trying to mold it to your preference. And fundamentally, there could be a mutual relationship here, because I go on this platform, right? You show me what I want to see, and I watch it. That's it. But more than ever, it's you watch what I want you to watch. And you have to keep in mind that people also game these platforms, greatly so. In fact, if you want to look at it a different way, then this is just a platform that people fight over to promote their interest if they're creators, and everyone else is basically a chump they fight over. But also, it's not just time, as I said before, but how much money you make per time you're watching, I guess. So if they can get you to lose money with some sketchy investments, then there's going to be more useful spending your time that doesn't make them much money or no money at all. So the relationship and the incentives are fundamentally predatory. I guess you can see yourself as the fish and the creators as the fishermen. Yet my main point would be that there are already a lot of platforms, actually all but one platform that I'm on, that I have zero interest in being a part of. In fact, if you look at it from the outside, then it's just gonna look like the most boring thing ever. Some guy who shit their pants 6 hours ago playing the one-armed bandit that is serving them shit every single time. And they might believe, and you might concur, that they might win sometimes. They might get the diamond. But even if they do, will it be worth it? Will it be worth it the very instance that it happens? You still get served the regular. Now, if these platforms were smart, then at least they would try to make the feed more rewarding. But that is pretty much just gone. It is far past the time where people came to this platform and like, we're just gonna serve them what they like, and for that they're gonna stay on the platform, right? Of course, they're gonna get it wrong sometimes, and we can argue that intentionally got it wrong. That still, the ratio wasn't that off. Yet now it's just completely lost, right? If you just look at the platform from the get-go, you would never want to be a part of it. And even if you're a part of it, and even if you train the feed, a very dubious expenditure of time, no doubt. But let's suppose you did train the feed to show you what you like. It will not show you what you like, but because you're kind of trained to be some kind of guy who we mentioned before, who shit their pants 6 hours before and playing the one-armed bandit. That is what you're supposed to be, because that is the most profitable customer. Yet, it's also important to point out the pro of this, because I don't think people think about this. Do people think about this? Do people think about the pros when they play in games, or they just feel? Like, I know this could be an angle that people just reject out of hand. I felt good, right? So it must be good or whatever. But what are you really getting with the feed? And truly, the only pro is that you might be shown something of interest that likely you would not find otherwise. But of course, this process is fundamentally gambling, because you're not just searching a list for stuff or asking AI just to give you recommendations, which I do a lot. And let me tell you, that is unsurprisingly more effective. Even if we went away from the feed for 1 second, if I just want good information, almost certainly I would not go on, for example, Reddit and try to get lucky and explore some topics for that. This might happen, right? But there could be a gambling element to it. If I used AI, then that's going to be more useful. So the claim I'm making here is that, is it the most effective way to get the job done, or you just do it because you like it. But not even necessarily like it, but because you're addicted to it. Addicted to this feeling of gambling, truly. And the previous Reddit example, it's certainly going to be more apt if you actually use the Reddit feed. It's like, yeah, are you really going to get the best information by scrolling the feed? And in the case of Reddit, suppose, would that be quality content, or would that be just popular content among Redditors? Because those would not mean the same thing. And this is not arbitrary. This is actually a very, very key critique that I have, is that most popular is best. And if you don't hold the most popular belief or don't have the most popular preference, then your preference is, I guess, wrong, at least in the eyes of the mob. And this is why you can have the experience that suppose you have a certain kind of interest or preference, and what you prefer might not have the highest rating if you are actually going with the rating of the people. So you don't prefer possibly the most popular videos, the most popular posts, most popular comments. And they certainly can be good, I guess. But oftentimes, to get that popular, you need to make sacrifices. Especially sacrifices in the realm of how you express that point. So even if you would otherwise like it, the way it is presented is not that deep and also not that challenging. So even if you have interest, it would be uncommon, it would be somewhat a rarity to see content to get popular that actually goes deeper. In fact, tends to get stuck at the first 20%. Well, basically like beginner level or around that point. Because popular is best. So in that case, I'm not gonna argue that beginner is bad, but because beginner is the most popular, you basically just see beginner all the fucking time. Yet this also means that this is the level every kind of learning and every kind of interaction happens. That's why partly I made the argument before that you just see two ignorant people arguing with each other, looking to win, which already would be a red flag, because if you're coming in with a team, then you are not a seeker of truth and information. You're just an inquisitor looking to hammer the other first party into submission. And then you think to yourself, it's like, okay, this video could have 10 million views, but you just see two fucking idiots being themselves. And do I just not get it? So social media cannot ever be that challenging, cannot really go that deep. I guess technically it can, but it cannot be popular that way. And keep in mind, if you're not popular, then at best, you would get less attention, but most likely, you would also get negative attention. So this is most obvious on Reddit. If you have the most popular opinion, then you'll get upvoted. If you have a less popular opinion, then you might not get downvoted in oblivion. And if your opinion is possibly even correct, but not popular, then you will get reported and downvoted into oblivion. Now, this does not seem to relate to feeds here, but it absolutely does, because you're shown the information that other people is upvoting. And I guess partly you're also shown the things that other people are watching and they are liking. So partly my point is that even if we don't presume some kind of a arguably self-evident, self-interested mode of behavior from the side of the platforms, which would be beyond naive, but still your taste, so to speak, would be highly molded by those who are also sharing the platform, at which point you either leave or learn to like it. And it really just comes down to how mainstream your taste is. Because if you're the most mainstream guy, you're possibly gonna like it. It is just for you. Yet if you actually want to see what you want to see, then it's gonna be trickier. In fact, I would dare suggest that it is pretty much close to a waste of time. In fact, arguably worse than a waste of time, because it tries to make you a gambler. It tries to make you some kind of a junkie who's constantly refreshing. Come on, give me some good stuff. Come on, do it. So that's pretty much it. Are feeds worth using at all? Maybe you can argue that sometimes, maybe like use it like once a year or like once a month just to possibly find some stuff. Maybe on very specific platforms. But I don't know if even that is justifiable, especially with AI around. They're like, hey, I just want to see some stuff. It's like, hey, just help me out. But mostly, my main critique is that, well, I do have many critiques, but this would be the most relevant critique in the way these platforms are heading, is that they don't care about what you like. They just want to make you a feed junkie who thinks, likes, believes, and whatever the feed serves them. You might say that is not the case, but that is entirely their incentive. In fact, arguably, I'm the stupid one here. I should just make videos. I've been told this many times, that I should just make videos that gets the most views. No doubt. Just aim for that. That's smart, right? Yet, I personally thought that this topic, presented this way, would be pretty dang relevant. And assuming this is the way that platforms are going to go, then your destiny is that either you become a feed slave, or I suppose you just leave the platform, or you become far less interested in it. But one of the kind of breaking their operant conditioning is that when I refresh, then either I get nothing, or I get something that I really don't like. And with very rarely actually getting something that I might be interested in. And in fact, using the feed less actually makes the feed worse somehow. I noticed this, that if they want you to see certain kind of news, certain kind of ads, I guess, so possibly some movie paid them to promote some kind of news around that movie, then you're gonna see that more. So essentially, the feed is worse the less you use it. They do all pretense that it's supposed to be something that kind of supposed to help you find relevant content on the platform, which I must emphasize would be highly in their interest. So possibly this could be the story of greed. You have a customer here. They came to your platform to consume content. You just have to show them that content, but you don't fucking care. You don't want to show them what they like. You don't care about that. You don't care about what they like. You don't care about them. You only care about making the most money. And if they're not the kind of person who's a feed slave, then they should be a feed slave. They should be a gambling addict. They should rage about all the dumbass topics everyone else seemingly rages about. So, I do wonder if feed is gonna be something that's eventually become our history. It's just gonna be possibly in like 20 years, we're gonna look back on it as the dumbest fucking idea.